everybody, and welcome to my post-2021 season top 25 roller coasters I have ridden. In this video, I will count down what I believe are the 25 best roller coasters overall that I have been on. In 2021, I had the privilege of visiting many parks for the first time, including the large parks in Florida and Southern California. In total, I picked up 85 new credits in 2021 and surpassed 300 total roller coasters ridden by the end of the season. Needless to say, my list has changed significantly from last year. A couple things before I begin my countdown. As with all of these countdown videos, these rankings are completely my opinion. I completely understand that your opinion differs from what mine is. The coasters I enjoy in general are more on the intense side. Lastly, I want to highlight two groups of coasters before my top 25. First, here are the 5 best new credits I got this year that did not make my list. Now I want to list the coasters that made my top 25 last year, but were unable to retain their spots after the 2021 season. Starting off at 25, I have Mystic Timbers located at Kings Island. This wooden coaster designed by Great Coasters International, or GCI, has an out-and-back layout that features strong pacing and quick transitions. My biggest problem with this ride is I've always felt that it's almost too smooth for its own good. This year I started to notice a little more of a wooden coaster feel with the ride now being around for 5 seasons. While it is far from the last Woodie you'll see on this list, it does crack my top 25 and is Kings Island's best coaster. At 24 comes one of the big surprises I experienced for the first time this year. This is Apocalypse at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Another GCI, this features more of a twister layout. While significantly rougher than Mystic Timbers, the lateral forces and airtime are much stronger. I also love the turnaround drop found on this ride more than the standard GCI curve drops. In a park that features soon to be 20 roller coasters, this is definitely the sleeper hit you don't want to miss. Another GCI comes in at 23, this time we have Prowler at Worlds of Fun. Similar to Mystic Timbers, this coaster features an out-and-back layout with the majority of the ride being isolated from the park. This ride doesn't have the same consistency with pacing as Mystic Timbers, however when this thing is running at full speed, the airtime and turns are so much more forceful. In a state packed with solid roller coasters, this ride finds a place towards the top. At 22, we go down south for Boardwalk Bullet at KEMAH Boardwalk. This coaster designed by the Gravity Group took an almost 100-foot tall and over 3,000-foot layout and crammed it into a 1-acre plot of land. The initial drop and the following 2 rapid turns are the highlight, but the pacing doesn't let up the entire ride. Not to mention the setting along the Gulf Coast is magnificent. Gravity Group have become the dominant wooden coaster manufacturer in my opinion, and this is just one of many you'll see on this list. The best GCI I've ridden comes in at number 21, which is Renegade at Valley Fair. This coaster took a bit of a fall in my rankings this year as I had a few slower rides in late 2021. However, this ride still features the best airtime of any GCI I've experienced. When this ride runs at full speed, the intensity matches up with some of the best Woodies in America. Also, the night ride on this is just exceptional and one of the more underrated coaster experiences that I've had. One last wooden coaster for now. At 20, I have RAVINE Flyer 2 at WALDAMEER. This gravity group starts off with a climb towards a great view of Lake Erie, followed by a 118-foot drop which then takes you over Peninsula Drive twice. The pacing really does not let up until the end of the ride and is complemented with strong positive and lateral forces as well as very noticeable airtime. This ride may be at a smaller park, but if you're traveling on I-90 through northwest Pennsylvania, make sure you stop and ride this masterpiece. Let's move on to some steel. At 19 is Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. This ride, designed by Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC, is their prototype of the single rail concept, aka the Raptor track. The pacing of this ride is something you have to see to believe. Watching pre-construction footage, everyone thought film taken of this coaster was sped up. Nope, this ride runs so fast it feels like one giant 30-second element. While the seatbelt restraints are a bit uncomfortable, the copious amount of ejector airtime really makes up for it and is one of the more intense roller coasters out there. Another RMC comes in at 18. This is Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. This hybrid utilizes the wooden structure from the defunct Hurler. Twisted Timbers really focuses on ejector airtime. After the amazing barrel roll first drop, you turn around the station and enter 3 strong airtime-filled camelback hills. There are 2 fun inversions afterwards, however the remainder of the ride seemed a bit repetitive to me with a bunch of smaller airtime hills. It has been a few years since I've ridden this, and I've ridden quite a few RMCs as well since then, so I'm curious to see if my opinion changes when I hopefully ride this again in 2022. One of the most exhilarating coaster experiences comes in at 17. This is Top Thrill Dragster from Cedar Point. This roller coaster, designed by Intamin, uses a hydraulic launch system that propels you from 0 to 120 miles per hour in about 4 seconds. The freedom of only being secured by a lap bar coupled with the anticipation of the launch really gets your heart racing. Once you launch, you're thrown up a 420-foot tower and you get a great view of the surrounding area before plummeting back to Earth. This ride may only be 17 seconds, but that launch alone easily gives Top Thrill Dragster a top 25 spot. A coaster with a faster acceleration comes in at 16, which is Max Force at Six Flags Great America. This ride, designed by S&S Sansei, uses an air-compressed launch, which takes you from 0 to 78 miles per hour in 1.8 seconds. Similar to Top Thrill Dragster, you experience great freedom in the trains with having just a lap bar. This ride is more than just the launch though. You get some great hang time going through the dog tongue element, and follow that up with the world's fastest inversion at 60 miles per hour. While this ride is short, packing in a fantastic launch with 5 inversions makes for an incredible ride. Heading back to Pennsylvania for number 15, I have Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. This ride, originally called Steel Phantom, was completely retracked by Morgan for the 2001 season. What was once a looping machine, Morgan turned into an airtime machine. You start with 2 large drops and race around a ravine before starting a string of quick ejector pops. Having one of the least restrictive lap bars out there, this ride really amplifies the negative G-forces. Incredible work by Morgan on this ride, and looking forward to seeing this turn purple for next season. No coaster was a bigger winner for me this year than my number 14, which is Fury 325 at CAROWINDS. The first time I visited CAROWINDS, I felt quite underwhelmed by Fury, having ridden a coaster higher on this list the day before. I was convinced this would soon drop out of my top 25, but my rides I got this year were incredible. Fury 325 is a giga coaster designed by Bulgar and Mabillard, or B&M. The first drop feels like it lasts for ages, which is followed by several high-speed turns. The highlight is the treble clef element by the front entrance, where you dive under the pedestrian bridge. The ride ends with a few great airtime hills. While it doesn't quite make my top 10, I understand more now why others have it ranked so high. The second new credit I got this year to make my top 25 is Hades 360 at Mount Olympus. I unfortunately was only able to get one ride on Hades this year, but this Gravity Group Woody sure delivers. A large portion of this ride occurs under the Mount Olympus parking lot, which contains several forceful transitions. You emerge on the far end of the parking lot and enter the iconic barrel roll before heading back. Most riders find Hades rough, but I didn't find it too bad. I was more focused on the great forces a Gravity Group knows how to provide. Another new credit I got in 2021 comes in at 12, which is Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Twisted Colossus was the 12th RMC I've ridden, so I wasn't incredibly hyped to ride it, but this certainly exceeded expectations. While the dueling is not the most common occurrence, the layouts from both the blue and green sides provide so much variety. In addition to RMC's airtime, there are fantastic inversions as well as an incredible high five element. I only got one true duel at my visit this year, which does add to the experience, but there are so many great moments that makes this one of the better RMCs in the US. Just missing out on my top 10 is Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. This is the coaster that made Fury 325 seem tame to me. Intimidator 305 is a Giga coaster by Intamin, which is regarded by many as the most intense coaster on Earth. While I do not necessarily agree with that, there is no denying how forceful the high-speed turns and transitions are. While this ride is fairly one-dimensional, lacking great airtime moments or unique elements, the theme hits it on the head because you feel like you're in a race car speeding down the track the whole time. To me, this is the world's best Giga coaster. Kicking off my top 10 is a new credit this year that, pun intended, blew my mind, and this is Mind Blower at Fun Spot Kissimmee. Gravity Group does some of the best work in the industry, and this ride I think is one of their best works. This ride is only 80 feet tall, but with how insane the pacing is, it feels like you dropped from over 200 feet. The initial drop and amazing barrel roll are so strong, but it is followed up by non-stop tight turns, airtime, and overbanks. Like Hades 360, many find this ride rough, but I thought this felt like an incredible wooden coaster. There are so many attractions in Orlando you may be drawn to, but seriously do not miss out on this ride. It's one of the most thrilling coasters out there. At number 9, we have a fan favorite amongst the coaster community. This is El Toro from Six Flags Great Adventure. El Toro is only one of 4 Intamin prefabricated wooden coasters ever built, and the only one in the United States. Simply put, this is the best wooden coaster I've ever been on for airtime. The first drop, particularly in the back of the train, the 2 camelbacks, and the iconic Rolling Thunder Hill provide some of the most ridiculous sustained ejector airtime out there. For me personally, the rest of the ride is mainly filler in between, which keeps it from being higher, but very few rides out there will throw you out of your seat with the force El Toro provides. Another popular coaster among enthusiasts comes in at number 8, which is Lightning Rod at Dollywood. As many of you out there are aware, to say this ride has had issues in its 6 seasons of operation is an understatement. I didn't get to ride this in 2016 at its full potential, nor did I ride it retracked for this season, but my couple of visits in between provided outstanding rides. While the first half is not the strongest, the ride picks up the pace with the twist and shout element, leading to the thrilling quad down. While this ride is a bit short, and not all elements are perfect, there is lots of intensity and being forced out of your seat that makes this a top 10 ride. The only new for 2021 coaster I rode this year comes in at number 7, which is Jurassic World Velocicoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. This is one of the most complete package rides I've ridden, mixing a thrilling ride with incredible theming. Velocicoaster has a wonderfully immense queue that takes you into the movie franchise. The operations are also the best I've ever seen, quickly getting trains dispatched. You start off the coaster with a bit of a pre-show before entering the Raptor paddock. The first half has some good hang-time moments and a couple of nice airtime pops to go with the amazing theming, but the ride definitely takes it up a notch when you leave the paddock. You get launched to 70 miles per hour and are thrown into the top hat, before falling down into the 0G stall. Several great lateral forces are then exerted on you before you enter the highlight of the ride, the Mosasaurus roll. This roll over the water is one of the best inversions on the planet with how much whip you get. A couple last turns takes you back to the station. This ride is incredible, but for me, the flaw that keeps it from getting any higher is a few slow moments in the first half. That said, what an incredible experience that finally got me to Universal. Many of you will disagree with me on this, but at number 6 I have Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. RMC really tried to hit it out of the park with their overhaul of Mean Street, and I'd say they did a pretty good job with it. This ride currently holds the record for the most airtime of any coaster in the world, sending you out of your seat for almost 30 seconds of the ride. There's not one element that I would point to as the highlight of the ride, although the Outer Banked Hill and the cutback inversion are both really outstanding. Someone I discussed this ride with one time told me something that really stuck, and that is Steel Vengeance is a coaster that doesn't feel like it has a soul. The way I take that statement, it feels like the ride, while all the moments are strong, there isn't really anything but negative G's forces on this ride. This ride I am not about to call one-dimensional, but in terms of the forces it gives, I do consider it more one-dimensional. All that said, there's no denying this is one of RMC's finest creations. Kicking off the top 5 is a ride you only have to travel about 100 yards to get to from Steel Vengeance, and that is Maverick at Cedar Point. My love for this coaster has grown with every visit I've taken to the park. This was the prototype of the Intamin Bliss model. The idea was to build a low-to-the-ground, yet intense and thrilling coaster. To say Intamin and Cedar Point achieved that goal is an understatement. The ride starts with an LSM launch to propel you up a 100-foot tall lift hill before shooting straight back down at 95 degrees. Rapid tight turns follow with a strong airtime hill before entering the twisted horseshoe roll. You then slow down below the station before accelerating back up to 70 miles per hour. A swoop over the water is then followed by two of the best coaster elements I've experienced, Maverick's Stangle Dives. The whip you get on those, particularly the second one, is just an incredible thrill. There are few coasters that execute all elements as well as Maverick. While many now claim Steel Vengeance to be Cedar Point's best coaster, to me, Maverick is still the king of Frontier Town. At number 4 comes another coaster that I absolutely love, and that is Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but this to me is the best RMC currently operating in the US. The biggest reason for that is how purposeful and well executed each element is. Plunging 162 feet is just the beginning, which you are then thrown into the overbank cutback, one of my all-time favorite inversions. Strong ejector pops follow, which you then enter a couple of wave turns. A couple more airtime pops lead into the grand finale, the double barrel roll. This may not be the longest ride, but there is so much packed into a short layout. Add the fact this is a wooden coaster, and to me that makes this the best RMC in the United States. The best new credit I got this year comes in at number 3, and that is X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Ever since playing Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 when I was younger, this ride has always had my attention. This has also been my top US bucket list coaster for the last 3 years. Driving up to the park seeing this along the entry road for the first time left me speechless. This fourth dimensional coaster by the now defunct Aerodynamics uses an additional rail within the coaster track to rotate the vehicles during the ride. There is no coaster I have been on that is more disorienting, and only one that is more intense than this. You climb up the lift hill facing backwards before rotating to a face-down position and drop 215 feet. The rotation is so intense throughout the ride, and your senses are also thrown out of whack when you get blazed by the fire effect. The last raving turn and flip into the brake run are also so aggressive. I had so much hype going into this ride, and I couldn't have been happier that it lived up to it. At number 2 comes the best steel coaster I've ridden, which is Sky Rush at Hershey Park. Simply put, this is the most intense coaster I've ever been on. The reasoning? It is the one ride I legitimately feel like it tries to murder you. You're only held in by not the most comfortable lap bar, and then the cable lift just blasts you up the hill before the best drop I have experienced. In the back row, a kink halfway down the drop just thrusts you out of your seat. You then quickly turn into two of the strongest airtime hills in the United States. After being sharply ejected from your seat 3 times, the rest of the ride features turns and transitions that make you feel like your upper body is going to fly out of the train. There is a reason Intamin is my favorite manufacturer: intensity, and this ride is the epitome of that. Very rarely do coasters just leave me speechless hitting the brake run, and this ride certainly qualifies for that. And finally, taking the top spot comes the one and only The Voyage at Holiday World. Once again, Gravity Group is at it, but this time they created perfection. This ride is incredibly long, 6,400 feet of track, and not one bit of it feels like filler. The ride just looks so massive compared to the surrounding area. The ride starts out with a series of large airtime hills mixed with dives into tunnels. After the series of hills comes the Twister section, featuring a couple of 90-degree turns. You then head for the mid-course brakes before speeding back up on the triple down. The rest of the ride stays low to the ground, and the pacing throughout the stretch is relentless. The voyage culminates with a dive under and around the station. This ride takes everything I love in a wooden coaster and just ramps it up so much. This coaster to me feels so pure, and I get beyond hyped to ride it every visit I make to Holiday World. And there you have it, my top 25 roller coasters I have ridden as of the end of 2021. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. While I certainly don't expect your rankings to match up with mine, I certainly encourage you to try to get out to as many parks as you can to form your own opinions. I'm hoping for another great season in 2022 and look forward to seeing what new coasters make my list next year. Thanks again for watching and take it easy.